The stars shone brightly above the desolate, barren landscape of Valthor 9, a planet far on the edge of the galaxy. Once a thriving colony, now a graveyard of forgotten promises and shattered dreams. Valthor 9 had been abandoned by its original settlers years ago, after an invasion by a hostile alien race, the Arrexians. The Arrexians had come with force and fire, claiming the planet as their own. They wiped out most of the human inhabitants, leaving a few survivors scattered in the wilderness. Among the survivors was Elara, a widow who had lost her husband in the early days of the invasion. She was left to raise their child, a young boy named Kael, alone on a planet now ruled by fear and destruction. The once lush fields where her family had farmed were now just dry wastelands, littered with broken metal and alien remnants. Her small home, once full of warmth and laughter, stood silent and hollow. With the Arrexian army pushing closer, survival had become a daily battle. But, despite the odds, Elara held on to hope. She did it for Kael. Days were long, and food was scarce. Elara would leave their small shelter to forage for food, but the wastelands offered little. The alien soldiers patrolled regularly, their ships hovering ominously overhead, casting long shadows across the dusty terrain. The fear that accompanied their presence was suffocating, but it was the only reality Elara knew now. One day, after venturing out for supplies, Elara returned to find their home ransacked. It was clear that the Arrexians had come again. They had taken all the remaining food and supplies they could carry. But there was no sign of Kael. Panic rose in Elara's chest as she frantically searched the ruined house, calling his name. Her heart raced, and her hands shook as she moved debris aside, praying that her son had not been taken by the aliens. Then she heard it, a faint cry coming from behind the house. She rushed to the sound, breathless with fear. There, lying hidden in the tall grass, was Kael, trembling but unharmed. He had managed to escape the alien soldiers, hiding just in time. Elara scooped him up in her arms, tears welling in her eyes. "We have to go," Elara whispered urgently. "We can't stay here any longer. The Arrexians will come back." Kael, only 7 years old, looked up at his mother with wide, fearful eyes. "Where will we go, Mama?" he asked quietly. Elara hesitated. The answer was clear. There was nowhere left. They had nowhere to run, no one left to turn to. The planet was deserted, save for the hostile aliens and the few scattered survivors who were too weak to fight back. But as she looked into her son's innocent eyes, she made a vow. No matter what, she would protect him. Night fell quickly on Valthor 9. Elara gathered the last of their belongings, intending to leave the wreckage of their home. She couldn't stay, not with the Arrexians prowling around. But where could they go? The surrounding wilderness was unforgiving, and there was no one else to rely on. The thought of running, of escaping the planet entirely, felt like a futile dream. Just as Elara was about to make her move, she heard something she had never imagined. The deep hum of an engine, the whir of machinery, and then a sudden burst of light. A ship, human, unmistakably human, descended from the dark sky. It was a sleek, military-class vessel, its engines roaring as it touched down in the middle of the barren field near Elara's home. The sight filled Elara with shock and disbelief. It was a sign of hope, but it also brought more questions than answers. She had never seen a human ship on Valthor 9 before. Who were these people? Could they help? A ramp lowered from the ship, and from it emerged a figure, tall, imposing, and covered in military gear. His face was hard, his expression focused. He looked like a soldier, but there was a sense of weariness in his eyes, as if he had seen too many battles. He scanned the horizon quickly, taking in the desolation of the planet. Elara's heart raced as she approached the soldier, clutching Kael tightly to her side. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice trembling. "Why are you here?" The soldier paused, noticing her for the first time. His eyes softened, but only slightly. "I'm here to help," he said simply. "I'm Sergeant Ethan Cole. We've been sent on a rescue mission." "Rescue?" Elara repeated, unable to comprehend the words. "Who are you rescuing?" "Anyone still alive," Ethan answered. "We've been tracking the Arrexians' movements, and we found a few survivors. We're here to get you off this planet before it's too late." Elara blinked in disbelief. For the first time in a long while, she allowed herself to hope. "You're human. You can take us away from here?" Ethan nodded. "That's the plan. But we need to move quickly. The Arrexians are closing in. I suggest you don't waste time." With no other choice, Elara followed Ethan to the ship, Kael still in her arms. The ramp closed behind them, and the ship lifted off into the sky, leaving the ruins of Valthor 9 below. As they ascended, Elara looked out the small window, watching the desolate landscape shrink beneath them. She clutched her son tightly, trying to process the sudden turn of events. Were they truly escaping? Was there a chance for a new life beyond this planet? Inside the ship, the air was sterile, the lights harsh. Ethan led Elara and Kael to a small medical bay, where Kael was quickly checked for any injuries. Ethan gave Elara a moment to catch her breath before he spoke again. "How long have you been on Valthor 9? He asked, his voice softer now. "Since the invasion," Elara replied, her voice low. "It's been years. I lost my husband in the first wave. I've been on my own with Kael ever since." Ethan nodded. "You're lucky you survived this long. The Arrexians have been tearing through this sector, wiping out colonies, leaving no trace. Most people don't get out alive." Elara looked down at her son, his innocent face looking up at her with confusion. She felt a pang of guilt. Kael didn't deserve this life. He didn't deserve the fear, the constant running. She had tried to protect him, but the odds had always seemed stacked against them. Ethan watched the mother and child quietly, then spoke again. "We have a base on one of the moons of Thera 4. It's a safe place. You can start over there, rebuild. It's not much, but it's better than this." Elara's heart swelled with gratitude. It wasn't much, but it was hope. A chance to start anew, to give Kael the life he deserved. As the ship made its way through the stars, Elara looked out into the vast unknown, her thoughts swirling. The destruction of her home, the loss of her husband, the cruelty of the Arrexians, it had all brought her to this point. But now, thanks to the courage of a human soldier, her son would be safe. They had a chance to rebuild, to dream again. The ship touched down on the moon of Thera 4, and Elara and Kael stepped into the new life that awaited them. The pain of the past would never truly disappear, but they had been given a second chance. And for Elara, that was all that mattered. As she watched Ethan leave, ready to continue his mission to save others, she knew she would never forget his kindness. He had given them more than a way off a dying planet. He had given them hope, and that was something no alien invasion could ever take away.